Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, Malcontents. I am David. I am the Malcontent, and welcome to a special edition of Malcontentment Happy Hour for December 3rd, 2021. Looks like I'm a little distorted. Let me pull the mic back there. I was fidgeting with my sound levels again while I was in a meeting. That should be a lot better. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If there's anybody joining from our TikTok community in particular, hi, how you doing? We'll talk about TikTok later. We got 65 actually. I think we can go ahead. We've got a good size audience here. I think we're going to go ahead and dive in. I don't have a lot of good news tonight. I really don't. There's a lot of data. You know, last week, day after Thanksgiving, there was a lot of we need 7 to 14 days, and that was 7 days ago. We don't have answers for everything. We've got some preliminary information tonight, and we certainly know a lot more than we knew a week ago. I have been talking and working with a number of epidemiologists. One of them is a malcontent. We've talked a little bit. If you're over on TikTok and you know Laughter and Light and I have been sharing information. She's a big fan, by the way. Hello to... Are you taking refugees? Oh my God. Laughter and Light and a couple of other people who have been praising our coverage and praising our data analytics and the work that we're doing and how we get things right. And we've had actually a couple of really big medical creators promote us this week, which has been really exciting. Been doing this now for almost 2 years. And it's getting old. All right. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. We've got a good size audience. Let's do a little bit of a recap, right? So the Omicron variant is an aptly named variant of concern by the WHO. There were some people last week. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't understand. It took them months to make Delta a VOC, and it only took them like a few days with Omicron. Yeah, because everybody criticized the World Health Organization for not moving fast enough with Delta, and they didn't want to repeat the mistake. We'll leave that data out. So You have variant of interest and variant of concern. And I saw a thing, I think it was on the Hill, and I just wanted to throw my computer monitor on this, across, because that was one of their arguments, right? Is like, well, I don't understand because, it's only in South Africa. And it's like, that is not the definition of a variant of concern. And this has been a particularly really frustrating 2 weeks for me. And the reason it's been is when I started COVID coverage in March of 2020, I'll freely wear the label. I was a clever blogger, and I'll put that hat on in March of 2020. It was metaphorically suspenseful with a pencil. If you've followed along for the last 2 years, you know that I've gone through this journey of getting a lot more journalistic that started in June. And I've seen so much, particularly in the last week, where I'm just like, do better. You call yourself a journalist, do better, because this information is available and you're not even looking for it, which is why I'm going to explain what a variant of concern is versus a variant of interest. So, what is a variant of interest? That's a VOI, by the way. It has genetic changes that are predicted or known to affect virus characteristics and such as transmissibility, disease, severity, immune escape, diagnostics, or therapeutic escape. All right, Omicron checks that box. And that has been identified as causing significant community transmission or multiple COVID-19 clusters in multiple countries with increasing relative prevalence alongside increasing number of cases over time, or, there's the or, other apparent epidemiological impacts to suggest an emerging risk to global public health. Omicron, we know, right? This was done on the 26th. We know 8 days later. Yep, check that box. So how does it become a VOC, a variant of concern? Increase in transmissibility or detrimental change to COVID-19 epidemiology. Well, that was already suspected 8 days ago. We have numbers tonight. This is why we're doing the live, and this is why if I'm looking a little tired and not you'll see. Increase in virulence or change in clinical disease presentation. It kind of has this. We'll get into that in a little bit. It has one of them, not the other. Decrease in effectiveness of public health and social measures or available diagnostics, vaccines, or therapeutics. If we go through these here, when this was declared a variant of concern, they already had number 1 and number 3 checked off. That's why this was a variant of concern. And we're going to dive into all 3 of these. So what are we going to talk about? I'm going to talk about a lot. The reason it was made a variant of concern is because it has these over 50 mutations. And let me go through this again. And I should have pulled the one up for Delta. There's actually a slide that shows Delta, and I should have showed Delta because Delta only has 9. This is over 50. This stuff in the red that you see here, bad. Any mutation you see here in the red, it's bad, and we know it. And there is a ton of them. The ones that are in the purple, we haven't seen them before. We think they're bad, but we haven't seen them before, but they're not in a good place. These out here over in the green, those are mutations we've seen before. Is okay. Is all good. That's fine. This one here, we have like these 2 mutations here in the yellow. And what yellow means is we're not quite sure, but it's not in a good place. So these right here, like these purple ones here, right? It's like we haven't seen them before. They're not in a good place. This one here is we're not sure, not in a good place. Finally, these over here in the blue, we haven't seen them before. Got nothing. Don't know. So when we did our live, when Omicron was declared a VOC, we said there were 3 things to look for. Is it more transmissible than Delta? We know the answer to that tonight. It's yes. Is it more vaccine resistant? Does it have vaccine escape? That is a probable. Does Omicron create more severe symptoms? That's unknown, and we have some mixed information. So let's now go into this. This is the data out of South Africa. And so we have been tracking this data. If you've been following us on TikTok, we're doing an update video every day on TikTok. We do like a little 2-minute summary video. And doing like the whole full meal deal like this for a 2-minute summary just doesn't make sense. And I know some people are like, TikTok, you should check out our TikTok channel. Like, we get over 23,000 followers. It's our biggest channel now. We're getting a lot of love. So we've been doing this over here. If you've been following us on Twitter or if you've been following us on Facebook, you've seen that these also pop up over there. So this red line is the moving average. And what we're seeing is this nice, straight, linear, going up line. And this right here, the yellow line, is the daily new cases. So daily new cases here was 16,055 today. Yesterday, it was a little over 11,000. The day before that, it was about 8,600. And the day before that, it was around 3,500. They did 65,990 tests. That's actually about 15,000 more than what they've done in the previous 2 days. So that's good news. Their test capacity is going up. They had 16,055 positives. Their positivity rate is 24%. Look over here on November 11. The positivity rate there was 1.1%, and the case number was literally just a couple of hundred days. It was over. Their surge was over. They were totally done with the third wave. And now we just see this exploding. And we're talking like yesterday, the 7-day moving average for new cases just yesterday was a little over 5,000. Today, it was just under 7,000. That's in a day. I've never seen this. It's like hospitalizations, because I am going to kind of address this. Oh, it's mild here. I'm going to pull myself down here so I'm not covering up part of the slide. Gauteng province is the epicenter. So that is where Johannesburg is. That is where the capital Pretoria is. 15.7 million people that live there. I'm already seeing the comments. Holy fuck. This data is from, we're going to get into that, Carla. We're going to get into that. It's a great question. Y'all are asking the right questions. And I am going to be answering as you go. So please put your questions in the chat. Moderators also know how to hey, you're missing a question. So if you think I'm missing a question or something, go ahead and shoot. So this right here is actually worse than it looks. Like if you're already looking at it going, holy crap, this is worse than it looks. This is through this week. And this is as of technically yesterday, right? Because the sun's shining in South Africa. That's Saturday morning. So this is technically this column over here from yesterday. That is 5 days. These are new hospitalizations. There have been more new hospitalizations in Gauteng province in the last 5 days than in the 2 weeks combined. Just take a breath. And there's reasons that I'm showing you this. So they're at almost 100% Omicron. So this is all Omicron. This here is the week ending on the 28th. This is almost all Omicron, 90%. This here is the week ending the 21st. This is 50 to 75% Omicron. And then this right here is Omicron is just starting to, this is mostly Delta. The hospitalizations, same thing. If you remember when we were at our worst, when we were our absolute worst on the 5th waves and we were doing happy hours and we were seeing hospitalizations in Washington state going up 5%, 7%, 8% a day, right? Day over day. And I was like, yikes. They're seeing hospitalizations going up. They saw hospitalizations go up 27% today. They almost doubled yesterday. going to keep going. Let's dive into it. So now let's go into the demographics, the picture of the patients. It's not all. Yes, I'm seeing the comments. Let's vaccinate. We're going to get into. I got a whole slideshow for you, and let me go ahead and I'll move myself here so I'm not covering up the data. They have 1,551 patients as of yesterday. That's a 12.9% increase. Now, this isn't. This is, again, Gauteng province. 12.9% increase from yesterday. 1,258 are in acute care. 253 are in high care. 225 require oxygen. 29 are on ventilators. 7.6% of all of their COVID patients are in the ICU. 14.5% require oxygen. 10.9% in acute care. That's the increase. Acute care patients increased 10 point. I did this fast. Increased from yesterday. So they had a 10.9% jump in acute care patients hospitalized in one day. They had 11% increase in the number of ICU patients hospitalized in a day. To be very candid, I don't know what high care is, right? Because in the United States, we got acute care and we got ICU. So I don't know if if high care equates to like med surge. If you look at these numbers, this 118 and 135, and you look at the O2 support, it isn't a one-to-one correlation, but it seems to be if you need oxygen, you're on high care. That's what I'm kind of gleaning out of that. But to be very candid, I don't know what the full answer on that is. There's some good news. There's a little bit of good news here, and there's some bad, right? Obviously, there's some bad news because cases are skyrocketing. The good news is the 7.6% at ICU, 2 days ago it was 6%. It went up to 7.8% yesterday. It dropped, it held flat. You can nitpick 0.2%. It was at 7.6%. So that's good news. The people requiring oxygen, that's kind of bouncing around 14.5 to 16%. So is Omicron more mild? God, I hate that word. And Dr. Angelique Kutse killed that word. Is it more mild than Delta? We don't quite know. We need more data. But right now it looks like the answer to that is yes. But people have run with this in the disinformation circles and in the denial circles like, it's just a cold. Yeah. Here, 1 second. These hospitalization numbers, this is more than a cold. So are symptoms more mild? It sure looks like it. But is this just a walk in the park? A fun Sunday afternoon? A weekend home with your NyQuil and DayQuil? No, the data's not showing that. And I just like to remind people, basically mild is you don't need intervention. You're not in a hospital either getting something in the emergency department or urgent care to then send you home and go kick it yourself or being admitted, right? High, moderate, or severe, you're in the hospital. Roger, a little bit. We're going to get into that. The last patient, great question. The last patient demographic information we got out of Gauteng province was on November 28th. I have not looked today because I've been too busy with real job and preparing for this to see if there was a drop in new data. On the 28th, it was almost 100% unvaccinated. So it was in the hospital. 65% unvaccinated, about 35% single dose, hadn't had their second dose. Literally almost no one vaccinated in the hospital. So we did an analysis, and I wanted this is going to explain what we did here. And it's a very simple analysis, right? This is not, I'm not playing virologist here. I'm not an epidemiologist. I did put it in with some epidemiologists and said, look, I'm not trying to play your job here. Is what I'm kind of looking at here for like throwing a dart to spitball to, And they're like, yeah, just make sure people know that you're not playing epidemiologist and you're spitballing. And I'm like, okay, cool. But this isn't fantasy land. I guess that's the best way to put it. So what we got here, this is the week ending 11/21. What I did is I looked at the new cases the week before. So week ending 11/14. And there were 2,188 cases across South Africa for the week ending 11/14. And we know that most of those cases are Delta. There's a mix. There's going to be some Omicron in there because we know Omicron was floating around at least as early as November 8th. So we know there's some Omicron in that numbers. There were 628 new hospitalizations the week after, right? Because people don't walk into the hospital and they don't go like, oh, hey, you have COVID. Here's a hospital bed for you, right? People kind of go through this thing like, man, I feel like crap. They get a COVID test. You find out you get COVID. Most for the part, right? If your pulse ox is going to tell you to go home, you go home. You do the things they tell you to do. You get worse, and then you land in the hospital. And we have these outliers in the United States, and they're sitting at home and they're taking their ivermectin and drinking their pine needle tea and taking their advice from people like Palmer Davis and American Frontline Doctors. And then their family members are dragging in their purple, barely breathing bodies, and they end up in the hospital like that. But that is not the majority of cases. And that was the part I was concerned about. In building a very, very basic model. Would it be inappropriate to go, if we have X number of cases if we have these many cases in week X, does this then go, this is the number of cases, this is the number of hospitalizations we should see in week Y, the next week, and so on. So 28.7% of people that had COVID ended up hospitalized during that week. So I hope everybody understands which we got here. That's exactly a great way to put it, Minkado 134. It's a perfect way to put it. More mild is not worse than Delta. And that is exactly what they should be saying. So now if we go to week 11/28, the week before, which is 11/21, there were 3,923 cases. There were 1,215 new hospitalizations during the week of 11/28. 3,923 cases week of 11/21, 1,215. The percentage went up a little bit, but not by much, right? 2%. It went up a little bit. So here we can only look at 5 days of data. We're not to a full week. But if we look at the 5 days that align to the 5 days that we've had right now, Monday through Friday data, which is technically Sunday through Thursday because they're reporting data 24 hours behind. They had 7,748 new cases, and that's as of ending on 12/3, but that's the week before. So whatever 12/3 minus 7, whatever that is. And again, this is for all of South Africa, not Gauteng province. There have been 1,802 hospitalizations in the 5 days. We see a drop, 23.2%. We see a drop. So this is another thing that supports milder than Delta. The last 7, but this is where it's like, well, that's great. But now we get to the projected. The last 7 days, because we don't have tomorrow and we don't have Sunday. So we only have 5 days of data. There are 4,887 new cases in the last 7 calendar days. So now, if we go 20% are hospitalized, if we extrapolate this decline, if we look here and go, most of that's Delta. This is a combination of Delta and Omicron. This is almost all Omicron, but there's still some Deltas sprinkled in there. And maybe a little Gamma and Mu just to make things interesting, like tiny little sprinkles of that. This is all Omicron. Because they're basically, South Africa reported tonight, they're near 100%. So if we go 20%, then the estimate is 9,775 people are going to be hospitalized in South Africa in the next 7 days. If we cut that in half, then that means 4,800-ish, 4,900-ish new hospitalizations in the next week. This is mind melting. This is really mind melting. Kira, we have that. We're going to get to that. That's a great question. Because I think people are kind of going with this. Like, well, what does this mean for us? And try to figure that out a little bit. Now I want to talk about transmissibility, because I said this is something that we have an answer for tonight. And this was the thing that actually drove going, it's time to talk the truth. Right. It is time to kind of like what I did back in, if you weren't here in March of 2020, I got on here in mid-March of 2020 as like, we're in trouble. And I did it again as people, if you were here in August of this year, then you know I did it again. Like, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And we could be in really big trouble. So transmissibility. This study came out about 7 hours ago, our time. And as you can see, there is a big, long list of respected names that are attached to this. By the way, Dr. Angelique Coutses, you don't see her name anywhere on that list. So this is a chart that's out of that study. The bottom line is what they're estimating is that Omicron is about 2.5 times more transmissible than Delta. It's not good. I mean, I'm parsing my words, and I don't parse my words often because I'm wrestling with being truthful and informing, but I don't want to scare people and have people start doing stupid stuff. Delta has a R naught of about 6. So what does that mean? That means if you had a population where no one had been exposed to COVID and nobody is immunized, you just have your population. One person gets the Delta variant, they will give it to 6 people. And then those 6 people will give it to 6 people. So we go from 1, now we have 7 cases. And then we go from 7 to 36. Now we have 42 cases. And don't make me do the math in my head for the next one. But you can see that this goes really fast. Now, I'm going to get into what does that mean? I'm like, because I'm like, well, wait a minute. We have vaccinated. We have people who've been sick, but we're going to get into that. I know you're getting questions, but the R naught is the transmissibility rate, right? So again, if you have a R naught of 6, then that means if you have somebody who gets Delta and they're in a population where there's no vaccination and no prior immunizations, etc., they're going to give it to 6 people. No masks, just they're living life. Omicron would be R15 at 2.5. This is not a peer review study because it's been cranked out in a week, but they are using a month's worth of data out of South Africa to kind of draw these numbers. Will these numbers shift? Yes. Is this number high or low? No idea. They did this with Delta. The numbers came in higher and it did drop in lower. So we go like this. Okay, hopefully, but think about it. If you're a scientist calculating this and there were errors in the formula for Delta that had the number come in lower, are you going to use the same formula or are you going to tweak based on what you learned? I'm going to tweak. So I'm really concerned. Now, there you see this chart, right? This chart here. What is this? What does that mean? This curve, right? And also, if you're seeing this math here, this is not the R naught. I just don't want people to go like, he's lying. It's just an R naught of 2.5. Look at that chart. This is the increase by multiple over Delta. And that's even what the footnote says right there on the slide. It's really transmissible. Right? This is showing that. This is showing that. Look where this was here. 2,000 on November 19. They're at 16,000 a day. That's 1, 2, 3. That's in 5 days. We've never seen this. Never. This is really transmissible. What does this mean for us? Remember what I was saying that R naught And when we talk about it as that raw number, that Delta at 6, and I was saying, well, that's unvaccinated and, no masks, and no one's ever been sick before. During our 5th wave with Delta, which we're technically still kind of in, God, this is where this is the part where maybe if you need alcohol for bad news, you should go get a drink. We peaked around 2.1. You said it was 6. It's 2.1. Because we had mask mandates, because we have people working remotely still, because we have a pretty highly vaccinated population. That's why it was 2.1. It kept it from being 6. So the real R naught is lower due to immunizations and disease-acquired immunity. RT is R naught. Think of the T as 0, right? R naught as in nothing, zilch. So the T is just RT. So the T is like, how like you did algebra, A plus B equals C? The T is like the A, B, or C. You're welcome. If we extrapolate from a R naught of 15 and we had a 2.1 with the Delta variant, and right, the Delta variant, our peak was in September. But if we look at the total population of people 12 and older that got fully vaccinated, the needle didn't move a whole lot from the peak that we saw in September to say end of October into November. It moved, right? But it moved 6 percentage points, people 12 and older. It didn't move a lot. If Omicron becomes the dominant variant in Washington State, and we have a 6th wave, and everybody knows I already felt we were going to have a 6th wave as it is. And I'm going to share some news that it's probably already started a little bit. We would have a real R naught of 5.25. That means despite our vaccinations, despite the masking, despite the remote work, despite all of it, one person gets Omicron at its peak. When we reach our peak, they're going to give it to about 5 people. When we were at our peak with Delta, you had 1 and you gave it to 2. Y'all deserve the truth. So let's talk about vaccine escape, because I see lots of people asking, like, what about vaccines? What about da-da-da-da-da-da? We have no science-based estimates, nothing. This is another one where there was a story in the Jerusalem Post a few days ago. It really piqued my interest, right? Because it was like Pfizer says Pfizer says like it was 1.3 more transmissible and their vaccine is 90% effective. Like I saw a little thing and it was like, and it's in the Jerusalem Post. Jerusalem Post isn't a tabloid. But they're kind of it's not like the journal Nature, where if I read it in the journal Nature, I'm not looking somewhere else. I'm like, cool. If I see it in the Jerusalem Post, I'm looking some other places. And the Jerusalem Post story goes, well, this was on Channel 12, which is a major, think of it as like their ABC, NBC, CBS, right, for Israel. It's a big TV station. There was no link. There is no link to the Channel 12. Big red flag. And then they did link to Channel 12 the next day because Jerusalem Post was kind of getting roasted on like, well, where did this come from? And Channel 12 started backpedaling a little bit. And the government official that said it, the Israeli government, was like, yeah, South Africa was going to share data with us. Mods know I was able to get some of that a little bit. I wasn't able to get everything they shared. And it isn't just South Africa was sharing it broadly. And I was able to get some of that information. And that's where I built a little bit of my own model, which is different than the one I showed you. I am not showing you my model. I'm not. Because one, it's not my lane. I did it for my fun and amusement, and yikes. That's all I'm going to say about it. So the bottom line is we don't know, and nobody's given hard numbers. If anybody is throwing out numbers, specific numbers on vaccine escape, That's what I want you to do for right now, because we don't know. All the vaccination makers have said the efficacy is going to decline. That's not true. The Pfizer guy said his is all great. It was the Moderna guy that said his is trash. No, that's not what happened. And I wrote about this on our Facebook page. You can go on our Facebook page. You can go read about it there. By the way, spam those hearts. Spam those hearts for our mods and admins, because they've been looking at this data with me and they need the love. They really do. Like, we're all kind of like... So spam those hearts, give the love to the mods and admins. They deserve it. The Moderna CEO came out and said there is going to be a material decline, quote unquote, material decline in, right, the effectiveness of our vaccine. But then he went on to say, we still think it's going to be fine for severe disease. The Pfizer CEO said, our vaccine is going to work great against severe disease. They both said the same thing. Bonsell said it like a moron. The CEO of Pfizer said it better, much better. So what does that mean? What we're seeing is a ton of we're seeing breakthrough cases, right? We're seeing it, and we have a case study, and it's not a good one. You're not going to like it. So we're seeing that. Subunit protein vaccine makers. So that's like Novavax. You probably heard people like, ooh, people all excited about Novavax. It's one, I hate to say this to the people who are vaccine hesitant have been excited about Novavax, because it is subunit protein is like old school. It's an old school vaccine. It's old school. Viral vector is pretty old school too, which is, so I don't know why people are hung up on viral vector. It's, that's not like some new crazy science messenger virus vaccine is. That isn't something crazy or new. They're probably back to square one. That's what I'm being, because they, right, subunit protein. They're it's just what it says. We're taking pieces of the just the little pieces, but those little pieces of the protein that they've been working and cooking and developing are based on these other variants. And we're going to get into what all of this implies. I have a lot of slides about this. So anecdotally, this is bad news. It's not good. Let's do a case study. Norway. Business-sponsored Christmas party. It was last week. 120 attendees. Everyone fully vaccinated. Everyone had to have a negative COVID test to go to the party. One person at that party had returned from a trip to South Africa. There's 60 COVID cases. 50% of those people fully vaxxed, confirmed COVID negative before they went in there. 13 lab confirmed, but they are still having to genetically sequence, and they expect that number to go up. No one hospitalized. Everyone's got mild symptoms. I love it. I see, Roger, I see yours, OG vaccine. So... Right, we're seeing these travelers, and one of the things I've been saying with the travelers, I'm like, people are, see, the vaccine doesn't work. Person came off the plane and they got COVID. They got Omicron. Got to remember, there were 250 people sitting in the tube of aluminum, almost all of them vaccinated. And so I was hoping, because I was hanging my hat on that. It's like, okay, 250 people in a tube of aluminum. Let's say 225 are vaccinated and 25 got some BS exemption or a legit. There might be a couple of legit exemptions on there. Maybe one or two bought a fake vax card or, bribed the government official, whatever. But we'll say 225 of the 250 are vaxxed, 90% on the plane. And we got one breakthrough case. All right, that's not enough for me to go, whatever. This here, yeah. This isn't a good case study. Becky, exactly. And I think a lot of people look at it that way. And I think a lot of people have looked at it as, we're moving into a place, and I think, Becky, I'm getting a little ahead of myself in this, but based on your comment. But yes, we are moving to a place where what vaccination means is it's going to keep you out of the hospital. What about disease-acquired immunity? Ooh, fancy way of saying, I got COVID before, and so I'm good. So again, got a big, long list of names and universities that did this study at multiple countries around the world. I don't see Dr. Angelique Kutse's name anywhere on this one either. I had to put a little humor into this here. So here we go. I'd shitpost about how COVID is a hoax if I could find some ivermectin. I need to do some research. And I get that there are a handful of people out there who probably have disease-acquired immunity that were like that have had it in the last 90 days and got pretty convinced that after that experience, that they need to get a vaccination, and they can't. But that's not representing a lot of people. So if you're that person, basically, if you're looking at this and you got upset, yeah, then I'm talking to you. It's really that simple. This is the bottom line. The study concluded that Omicron disease-acquired immunity escape is estimated to be 240%. That was based on if you had a prior beta or delta infection. South Africa didn't have a lot of alpha. Alpha was the dominant strain like in the UK and Europe. South Africa had their little private beta party. And the group, what they did, this was a study of about 2.8 million people who had lab-confirmed COVID cases. They then identified about 33,000 people who had reinfection. They were never vaccinated, and they had reinfection. That reinfection happened 90 or more days after their positive test. So they chafed anybody out who had reinfection prior to those 90 days. There were 332 people that had 3 times. There was one person who had it 4 times. That's probably one very immunized, compromised individual that also has a lot of luck. Rolled the dice 4 times. It's impressive. And what they basically concluded is that your natural immunity really doesn't do anything for you. And why is that? Why is vaccine immunity better than natural immunity? It goes back to these mutations. And what's happening when we look at these mutations here is this constellation of mutations was not present in alpha, beta, delta, gamma, mu, iota, kappa. I'm leaving a couple out because there were a couple of minor ones in there. They weren't in there. So the way that natural immunity works is you got your B cells, and I always like to say your B cells are kind of like they're like your rookie cops. They're just, all right, rookie, you're going to go out and write parking tickets today. You got the T's, and I know people don't like because all cops are bad. I get it. It's an analogy that people get. T cells are like the gang unit or the vice squad. They got deep intel. They got, they're kind of, the T cells are kind of like, hey, what's going on? And the B cells are like, it's all good, man. We killed a couple of herpes cells, killed a few herpes viruses today. They're not cells. Killed a few herpes viruses today. We found some tuberculosis. We took that out. Little Hep A. We knew what that was. We took that out. Are you sure? Oh, totally. You didn't see anybody, pointy hat, big thing? Oh, no. We didn't see any of that. Because what's happened with all these mutations, so what happened with alpha, beta, and particularly delta? Yeah, the guy's walking around with all the spikes on the hat, and it also put on a fake beard, and it's got sunglasses on. And so it's like, that's not the guy. They have a beard. That's not her. And the T cells are like, wait a minute. You've got a beard. So what's happening is if you have vaccine immunity, because of the way that the vaccines are created, they provide a broader spectrum of information to the T cells. So think of it this way. The T cells, this vice unit, the gang unit, whatever you want to call it, right? They don't have like a wanted poster with a very specific picture. They kind of have, they do in profiling. They're profiling the viruses. So I could turn this into a conversation that a chud anti-vaxxer would really appreciate if I wanted to. Let's lighten it up with a chud button.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
For people who don't know what a chud is. They're kind of profiling when you have the vaccine. When you have disease-acquired immunity, they have a wanted poster. Delta. That's what we're looking for. Delta. And that's their wanted poster. So what's happening is with Omicron, why we're seeing these breakthroughs with vaccine-acquired immunity, the B cells are looking at it as like, okay, it got a funny hat, but you know what? Got sunglasses on. It's got beards on, and it's wearing it's got all this crazy jewelry on, and it's wearing platform shoes that makes it look like it's 6 inches taller, and it dyed its hair. And so they're like, it's way too tall. That's not it. And so they're able to get into the cells. They're able to bind to the cells and get in, even though you're vaccinated, and start to replicate. And the cells will say, help, I've been taken over and I'm making viruses. And so the T cells are, hey, excuse me, we're getting a lot of 911 calls right now from the pancreas. What's going on? And the B cells are like, it's cool. It's really cool. There's just some roaming herpes cells. We took care. We don't even know what they were doing in the pancreas. I keep saying it's cells, viruses. We don't know what's doing there. We took care of it. It's all good. So it's just like, gonna go check this out for myself. And then they go down there and like, hey, wait a minute. This is COVID. We know what this is. And they start kicking butt. However, what's happened now, you are now, right? It's gotten to the point that you got the viral load. You're infected. The T cells kick in. And then also what the T cells do then is like, hey, B cells need your help. Boom. For people with natural immunity, the B cells are going, whatever. And the T cells are even more whatever, because the T cells, they profiling, but they don't have all the profile they got is for Delta or Alpha or Beta. They don't have the profile for the constellation. And Omicron for COVID is like from another planet for the Vice Squad. They haven't even seen this. They're like, what is this? And so that is why natural immunity, disease-acquired immunity, is probably not very good. All right, let me move my thingy over here again. I know y'all can't see your chat and your chatter to each other, and I apologize for that. I hope people understood that. This story time is fantastic. All right, so Omicron versus previous variants. And also, other thing here that people are, right, so now we're kind of getting into this because people are asking, well, what are the demographics and all that? So let's get into that. The number one group of people hospitalized in South Africa as of tonight, 60 and over. Nobody should be shocked by that because we know that COVID hits 60 and over harder. We know that. The number two group hospitalized in South Africa is under 5 years old, and there's some very sick 5 years olds. Now, South African officials are saying today, this is the first time where the South African officials have said anything out loud, coming from the government, not Dr. Angelique Kutse, coming from the government spokespeople, where I'm kind of like, I think you're starting to put a spin on the story. Don't do this. You've been so honest and transparent. Please don't F this up. So what they're saying tonight is, what they're thinking is the kids were admitted in the hospital for something else and then caught COVID while they were in the hospital because they sick and it's so transmissible. And so it's an incidental infection, which does happen, and it happens in the United States. The reason I'm like, it's a little suspicious is we shared an interview going all the way back to November 28th from the head of ICU of the largest hospital in South Africa, 3,400 beds. By the way, part of her training was at Duke University here in the United States. She did training in London. She did training. She's a brilliant woman that is running this department. And every interview that I've seen, she looks like she's ready to fall over asleep. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. She's a hospitalist. She's there in the trenches. She was saying over a week ago that she was seeing an alarming number of sick children. Now, full stop. Let's rewind. Take a deep breath, especially if you got young kids. Take a deep breath. Let's rewind. Let's go to our Wayback Machine when Delta first arrived in the United States and around the world. Do you remember what they were saying about kids in Delta? It was hitting kids hard. There's all of a sudden a ton of these infections here. They're like, remember, kids are germ factories. They're germ factories. And it's hard, even if you're like, getting them a mask, it's hard to get them to wash their hands. It's hard not to get them to touchy-feely. It's hard not to get them to do this and then do this and then do this, right? Because they're little kids. So they're little germ factories. Does this mean Omicron is really hitting people, right? Pediatric patients? We don't know. But don't panic. And I'm seeing some headlines tonight. And I know it's like, wait a minute, you were all glum and stuff. And now you're like telling me not to panic about this. There's not enough data. And if we look at what happened with Delta, we heard this dance music before. Remember? Like, seriously, think back. Remember, when Delta, like the beginning of Delta, like when it first started in India, before it like really exploded, those first initial cases, a lot of kids. It's not looking good. We know this dance music. So we got to find out more. All right. Now, this is something that makes me go, oh. South Africa, only 5.5% of the population is over 60 years old. Why is that? Because South Africa dealt with a massive epidemic in the 1980s that killed millions. It's called AIDS, caused by HIV. This is why South Africa actually is so good at genetic sequencing, disease testing, disease monitoring, virology, epidemiology. It is a center of the world for research on this, particularly around HIV and AIDS and tuberculosis. But you have a bunch of people with really big brains that understand viruses and how they spread. And so it's very easy for them to go, oh, we could do this. Remember, they've spotted 2 variants. That doesn't mean the variant started there. And there's kind of some evidence that it probably didn't start in South Africa. They just found it. Technically, you could technically go, it started in Botswana because that's where they discovered it. The United States, 22% of our population is over 60. Full stop, right? Because you might see this and just go, oh my God, we're all going to die. No, stop. 24% of the total population in South Africa is immunized. In the United States, it's 63%. And for people who are 65 and over, it's well over 90%. A bunch of those people desperately need boosters, and they're not getting them. And there is some pretty significant evidence that if you're going further and further out, so people that say we're fully vaccinated early, February, March, April, they need a booster. They need it now. They need to figure out any flipping way to get a booster in their flipping arm. They need to do it. So we have a lot more people over 60, but a lot more of them are vaccinated. It probably balances out the forts. Just goes to the jobs N95s masks. I can share information where to get N95 masks. And I would say you probably want to order them now because I'm sure I'm not the only person that's going to be sounding the alarm in the next 48 hours. Let's go over some of the therapeutics and what I think is going to happen with those. Monoclonal antibodies. 70% effectiveness is helping keep people out of hospital and early intervention if you get it, while they're having mild COVID symptoms. They're based upon disease-acquired immunity antibodies collected before November 2020. Remember what we talked about earlier? There are a number of people that have PhD next to their name and doctor in front of their name that are telling me that monoclonal antibodies are probably going to be close to a nothing burger with Omicron. And they're basing that off of the data that they're seeing on disease-acquired immunity. Because at the end of the day, what is monoclonal antibodies? We're taking antibodies that came from a person who had COVID and we're cloning them. That's what it is. Sotrovimab. I speak perfect American, as some people know. Sotrovimab, I hope I'm saying that right. We don't know. There's no data. It's an antibody drug, and I really don't know a whole lot about it. Convalescent plasma, that's no longer recommended as it is. It's off the table. It doesn't, and it's based on, again, on existing antibodies. If things got really bad, well, you're kind of implying things are going to get really bad. If things were to get really bad, right? If we kind of land in this place where we're back to April of 2020, right? Because remember, if we were back at April of 2020, they're kind of throwing darts. It's like, let's just try stuff. Convalescent plasma was something they were trying. And there was, it probably wasn't helping, but maybe. I know 2 people that got it, and they both insisted helped. 2 people very close to me. I had a very dear friend. They got convalescent plasma. They were on here right now. They would go, it saved my life. And I would bite my lip because I'm not going to take it. And they were sick. And they were lucky because they got it real early. They got it like early March. They were really lucky because they were in New York City. Had they gotten it like a month later, might not be with us. So they had a lot of resources at the time to throw at them. My mother got it. She got convalescent plasma, and she has like the same thing. I got it and I felt better. Causation. Don't know. I was shocked to learn about this. I struggle with pronouncing this, as everybody knows. Remdesivir. Oh, I did it. Remdesivir. Wow, I did it. It's no longer recommended. I just read that tonight. It's like, it probably doesn't do anything. I was like, what? When did that happen? Molnupiravir. I wrote about this on the Facebook page. Let's talk about Molnupiravir. You probably saw me just kind of go, I was very excited about this drug. I was excited about this drug because it was produced by Emory University and reached status to be ready for phase 1 trials in 2019 before there was COVID. And Emory University went to the Trump administration and said, hey, how you doing? We have this antiviral we developed, and we actually think that this will be very effective against a broad number of viruses, including influenza and Ebola, and could save a lot of people. But we need money to accelerate phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 studies. Are you willing to write us a check? And the Trump administration said, pass. I'm like, okay. Then in February of 2020, they came back to the Trump administration like, hey, we got this thing. We actually think it may work against COVID because it works against its broad spectrum. It appears to work against a number of viruses. And the Trump administration said, pass. And there are people that were saying a few months ago that, you know, the evidence is pretty strong that because they got these 2 pass, it probably slowed down phase 2 and phase 3 testing. We could have potentially had this earlier as a therapeutic. The FDA approved it earlier this week in a 13-10 vote. And you're like, well, that's 13-10. That's like almost a tie. Yeah. So what happened? Well, here's the first thing. Pfizer, when they initially, is this Pfizer? Merck, when they came out with this, and they released their study, showed that it was 50% effective at preventing hospitalization and preventing death, which is pretty exciting because with monoclonal antibodies, that's 4 injections, or it's 4 injections or an IV. It has to be done in a clinical setting. What I mean a clinical setting, it has to be done in a doctor's office, an urgent care clinic, or a hospital. You can't do it at home. This is pills, right? It's here. Have somebody go to the pharmacy because you have COVID and we don't want you in public. It's okay. I'll go pick them up myself because that's what idiots do. Go take these pills. You go home. You're going to take them like over 4 or 5 days and you got a 50% chance of not being. Look, sign me up. That's exciting. 30%. After the FDA rule, they're like, hey, guys, this is about 30% effective. Merck was like 30%, 50%. Well, we think it's pretty good. I get ready for like scary talk. I got to pick my words careful with this because this is like one of these topics where like people are just going to run with this. The way that molnupiravir works is it kind of gives the virus a cold, and it's really dumbing it down, and it's not technically accurate at all. I'm oversimplifying it to the point it's not super accurate. And what this cold does is it scrambles the mutations. And if you think of something like a coronavirus, I think it has something like about 22,000 places where you can do mutations. And of course, most mutations are not evil or bad. Most mutations actually, right, they mutate and so the way that molnupiravir works is it gives the virus a cold. The virus kind of like goes all Cronenberg. You know, the guy who did all the, like The Fly. I didn't do The Fly, but David Cronenberg did all these movies. Right? It goes, I'm dying. And it turns into a puddle. This is what the FDA was worried about. They're like, okay, so let's just suppose, because this isn't targeted. This is like rolling a 20. This is like, okay, so what we're doing is this is like picking, the pick six for the $1 million lottery here. That's the way that this is working. What happens if somebody wins the $1 million lottery and they come up and that magic combination comes up with something actually worse? And Merck was kind of like, the odds of that really aren't all that high. And so that's why you had 10 people in the FDA going, we're going to say no. And you had 13 people at the FDA going, oh my God, we're looking at this Omicron stuff and the monoclonal antibodies probably just aren't going to work at all. And there's vaccine breakthrough and just really? These are our choices. These are our choices. Why did I get out of bed today? Fine, I'm going to vote yes. I really don't want to, but I'm going to vote yes. And that's kind of in layman's terms the way things were described. I guess this is what it is. If I'm COVID positive, right? Let's say I go COVID positive and I'm asymptomatic. And they're like, here, you need to start taking molnupiravir, right? We don't have monoclonal antibodies don't work. You need to take this so you don't get. I'm probably going to put my trust in Johnson & Johnson and Moderna based on what I know because it's 30% effective. And that's my thing. Now, if it's coming down to I'm symptomatic and it's like, okay, here are your choices. We can put you on oxygen or you can take these molnupiravir and we'll see how it goes. Right? Because with all of these treatments, right, they're not made for moderate to severe COVID. Once you're on oxygen, you're to moderate land. Then at that point, I'm like, okay, give me the happy brown pills. I got no other options. Nothing. You got nothing. That's it. It's oxygen or the happy brown pills and maybe oxygen. Okay, give me the happy brown pills. Then that's my view of molnupiravir. It totally screws with the virus. Totally, it screws with it. It makes it all Cronenberger.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
That's what it does to it. It makes it look like that. Paxlovid isn't approved yet. Let's hope that Paxlovid works differently. It has better numbers than molnupiravir, please. Fluoxamine, a.k.a. Prozac. There is strong indication that for mild COVID, because this drug is a anti-inflammatory, that this actually helps with mild cases. So this is still probably good. And if you're kind of looking like, so what you're saying to me is that the limited number of options that we have for fighting Delta aren't going to translate over well for Omicron or have been taken off the table because they've concluded they don't work in the first place. Yep. Fluoxetine. This is the same thing. I promise. That was the name. But yes, it's Prozac. Whatever generic Prozac is. If I did a typo. What's going in the United States? This was as of a couple of hours ago. I suspect that these numbers have changed. California's got 2 cases. They're both travel related. Colorado has one case, travel related. Hawaii has one case. That is community spread. So that means there's other people in Hawaii that have Omicron. That's bad news because it's remote. It's like that's not a place you wanted to get it. Maryland has 3 cases. Minnesota has 1 case. That is community transmission out of New York. Missouri has 1 case. That is community transmission. Nebraska has 6. Community transmission and 5 unvaccinated because, of course, Nebraska. New York has 5 cases. Some are community transmission, some are travel. New Jersey has 1 case. Pennsylvania has 3, and Utah has 1. And the CDC said tonight they have more samples from other states that they are confirming. This list is going to expand. The other thing is I would not be surprised to see Washington and Oregon, Massachusetts and Connecticut pop on these lists. I suspect that Georgia is going to pop on this list. And the reason that I say that is, in the case of Oregon and Washington, we do really good genetic sequencings in the state. Same thing with Massachusetts and Connecticut. They do excellent genetic sequencing. Georgia, the community transmission case that is in Missouri is from a person that traveled to Georgia and back. So they may not have gone to Georgia. They could have picked it up at the airport in St. Louis, and I get that. That's possible. But it's almost certainly in Georgia. And honestly, I would be operating, it's probably in all 50 states. That's my opinion. I have nothing to back that up. I would say it's almost certainly in all 50 states, maybe not Alaska, maybe not like Wyoming and North Dakota. That's about it. I would say it's everywhere else. And we saw how quickly. And the other thing I didn't build a slide on this. In the UK, their cases are growing. So it's, you look at a country like UK, United Kingdom, England, they have, right, Delta's just tearing through there right now because people needed boosters and they didn't get them. Same thing in Germany. And the Omicron cases are going up in the UK. It's still a small fraction, but with so much Delta spread there, if Delta could beat it out, it would just squash those cases as they came in, and they're not seeing that. Is this the end of COVID? Right? Because that's the other thing I've been seeing, and I've been actually seeing some people that are very, very smart and people that have PhD and doctor next to their name, not necessarily people I'm talking to, that are saying, like, this is good news. This is the end of COVID. It's highly transmissible. It doesn't appear to make people as sick as Delta did. It's got some vaccine escape, but not to the point that people are vaccinated. It's not that it's useless. This is good news because it's going to spread around the world and everyone's going to get it. And then that's it. COVID's over. No, you don't know that. I think I've built a pretty compelling case on why this is the why. Immunity for Delta does not equal immunity for Omicron. Immunity from Alpha does not equal immunity from Omicron. Immunity from Omicron does not equal immunity from Delta. And on and on and on. So if you are somebody relying on natural immunity or my immune system, right? That's natural immunity. And you get Omicron, you're probably, those antibodies for Omicron probably aren't going to help you for Delta. So if you don't get vaxxed, then we're just in this. And it's not that Omicron is like a whole new virus. It is just so far off the family tree. This is mutated so far, right? This is not the scenario we wanted to see. This is mutated so far off the tree that what we're seeing is immunity from... Boom, Jessica. Thank you. where the next COVID cases will be. Where is Georgia? I was like, Georgia was a no-brainer because there's community. So like it all over Georgia. And guess what? After Thanksgiving, because this is happening after Thanksgiving. If it was in Georgia, you know where it's at. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I knew that we've beaten COVID, mission accomplished press release. Oh my God, that's just going to be such a disaster for DeSantis. Oh, we'll get into that. Anyway, I just kind of explained, why, you got all these mutations compared to the other ones you don't. What's our sit rep? What's our situation? Washington State. Approximately 75% of people 12 and older are fully vaccinated. We only have a handful of children from 5 to 11 that are fully vaccinated. No child will have peak immunity until December 13. So there's 0 children in the state of Washington from 5 to 11 that have reached peak efficacy of their 2 Pfizer doses. 0. We have 2.3 million people in Washington State that need their boosters now. And the people that are getting boosters, it's not happening fast enough. And we have this huge flipping problem in this state. We have people in Western Washington who want to get boosters and can't find an appointment because we shut down all the vaccination sites. A lot because people weren't interested anymore, but we didn't account for anything in public health. They go, what if we had to turn that back on really quick? So fun. And that's not directed at Washington State. It's like the whole freaking country. And it's, I don't even do this as a job and I understand this. Oh my God. Anyway, sorry. I just, okay, I'm better now. There is a mobile vaccination clinic that FEMA, they're bringing 2 to King County. The first one's opening on December 20th. If you're listening to my voice and you're like, and I have convinced you to get a booster shot, first of all, let me know that in the comments because then I know I'm doing something right. But if you're watching this and you've been convinced you need to go get a booster shot, here's my advice. If you can't find it in bright blue Seattle and you got a car, go drive to Chud territory. Go drive to a politically red area like to their Costco. Costco, by the way, does walk-ins in the afternoon and try to do walk-ins. See, there you go. Everett, right? I mean, Everett's still blue. There's a little purplish blue, right? Thank you for dropping that link, Jessica. That's what I mean. If you can't find them in like Bellevue, and of course you can't because people here are, it is what it is. We believe in science. Anyway, go to places where people don't believe in science. You'll be able to walk in and just get your booster. We have 750 staffed acute care beds available statewide. We have 150 staffed ICU beds available statewide. Both of those are rough estimates, but close, very close. We're at 103.6 new cases per 100K residents. We're back to high transmission. The week before Thanksgiving, we were at 87. We were to moderate transmission statewide. Congratulations. Look what Thanksgiving has done. Just as we predicted. It gets better. Washington State Department of Health says they can't report any test positivity data until next year. They said October 30, then they said November 30, then they said December 15, now in next year. I don't know why they can't do it. I don't understand. That's right. South Africa got better data than the state of Washington by a landslide, by a flip. Oh, that's right, because they have a bunch of people there to do that. But we have UW-Medicine, a lot of brilliant people here. That's why I'm frustrated. We have Amazon, we have Microsoft, we have UW, we have so many big brains, and we can't figure out test positivity in the state of Washington. It's a disgrace. It's a freaking disgrace. Calling it as I see it. The medical staff, mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted. Yeah, I got skin in that game because I see it every day. We already have a statewide mask mandate. We can't move here's the thing. We can't move the needle. We're not going to get a lockdowns or anything. If it is, it's going to be like King County or Seattle. And that's it. We're not going to see lockdowns. We are not going to see anything more than what we've got now. And part of the reason is, and I know the Chuds got very upset when Homeland Security keeps saying this, because what Homeland Security has been saying in their terrorism advisories that they put out is the biggest threat to the United States right now is a really big surge of COVID, and then they start doing lockdowns, and the midlife crisis militia decides it's time to open a can of whoop ass. And the midlife crisis militia, even though it's like 1% of the country, is basically holding the other 90% of us that are either like, well, I kind of like those guys, but like they're a little out there, to they should just all be thrown in jail and the key should be locked away for the traitors that they are. They're holding the rest of us hostage. And then you got like the other 9% that are just helping them out. We're not going to get a lockdown. You need to operate. I'm telling you, this is where we get into the depressing. If you're not depressed yet, go get your Prozac because it helps with COVID. Get ready to get depressed some more. This right here is actually today's numbers. Wow, that's a busy slide. I'm going to have to cover something up on here. On 11/24, we had 26 counties that had low or moderate transmission. We're now down to 17 counties as of today with low or moderate transmission because everybody had to go to grandma's house to give her COVID. And I'll bet dollars for donuts that some of these cases are Omicron. We just haven't spotted them yet. I bet on it. These are the counties that are very high. So they have a 7-day moving average over 150. Nobody's over 200 7-day moving average. Yay. A couple of them like Grays Harbor and Columbia are close. Yeah, I mean, right, we got Lewis. That's on this side of the mountains. And Grays Harbor's on this side of the mountain, but the rest of it's on the other side of the mountains. These are your high transmissions. So these are between 100.0 and 149.9. Whatcom and Skagit and actually they dropped off the list. Whatcom and Skagit had like a little mini hotspot about 4 weeks ago. They had a big surge because in the eastern parts of those counties, they had a little surge of Delta moving through in pockets of unvaccinated and who would not have prior exposure. That is going this way. So their numbers are a lot better, but they're still very high. King County is surrounded by Snohomish and Pierce over 100 a day, and look, Spokane County, what a shock. Oh, look, Clark County, what a shock. One of our most populated counties, and one of our most populated counties. So vaccination rates have a major impact, but there are other factors that do that. Now, this data is as of today, and if you follow us on malcontentnews.com, you've seen this chart before, and I put it into a slide. So this is total population over 12 fully vaccinated. So there are 2.3 million people in Washington state that live in counties that are 70% or more of the population vaccinated 12 and older. What about the 5 to 11-year-olds? Washington State Department of Health promised that we would have that added to this dashboard 2 weeks ago. They also promised that we would have a dashboard showing us pediatric hospitalizations. And when I say us, I don't mean us personally. I mean the journalism community. And we never got that either. I'm just saying. Data is important. 133.6. That, by the way, is a 14-day, not a 7-day. That's a very important distinction because the 14 days are typically higher. If we go to the 60 to 69.9, that's 1.3 million people. They're at 270, right? We see this big jump. What is with the big jump? That is because of Whatcom and Skagit. And also, or did it drop off the list? Did it drop off? Chelan is in there too, right? So what's going on there? Chelan just rolled over 60%. So that's pulling the average down because they had they're pulling that average down. And then you have Whatcom and Skagit coming down off of this hot spot. So this is why you have a little bit of this anomaly. From 50 to 59%, which is 3.4 million people, they're at 228.6. At 40 to 49.9%, they're at 244.1. And then when we look at the 32.2 to 39.9, that's 151,000 people, and they're 187. Wait a minute. They're under 200. What's going on? It isn't just about the vaccination rates. The people that are in this 30.2 to 39.9% are in sparsely populated rural counties. There are about 80,000 of that 151,000 are distributed in 2 counties. And there are some counties in those numbers where there's like literally 2,500 people and 4,000 people across an entire county. They're agricultural for the most part. They're older for the most part. And what's happened is the harvest is over. The farming season is over. They're moved more to indoor work. They're working indoors in large buildings, but these are, typically very big buildings. If they're in a barn, they've got generally, or a shed, they generally have very good ventilation. They're not the most, tightly sealed things on the planet. And then even if they're outside and working with people, the exception of our second 30+ degree heat wave in 5 months, Cliff Mass can suck it, by the way, for the stuff that he said in June, and then had to be like, wow, we had a second one in 5 months. Maybe there really is something to this climate change thing because shit, I didn't see that coming.
Press this.
We have a chud. Definitely have a chud. Haven't had the chud button in a while. That's why you're seeing that number is lower there. There's other factors that are going on in those sparks, right? It isn't just the vaccination rate. However, I will say this. There has been a significant difference when you get to 70%. When 70% of the total population in a county is vaccinated, the numbers go down a lot. So of what I have observed, I have not done deep scientific virologist, epidemiologist study here, but looking at data, looking at observation, you want to be in a county that is 70% or more of the population 12 and over vaccinated. And if you're in King County, or if you're in San Juan County, or if you're in Jefferson County, congratulations. That's where we got 3. 2 of those counties are pushing 75%. By the way, if you're in like Bellevue, like Bellevue's like ridiculously vaccinated. Like Bellevue's like at 90%. You're of course those vaccinations for other variants. I saw that, Jessica. It's about 17. We actually had that in our story yesterday. It's about 17% of all kids in our immediate area. So Bellevue, Kirkland, Woodinville. If we look at and technically Bothell, the King County side, if we look at the school districts that are Bellevue School District, Lake Washington School District, and the North Shore School District, King County zip codes, 5 to 11-year-olds initiating first vax, they're anywhere from about 33% to almost 60%. The numbers are fantastic. And there's going to be a lot of parents glad that they did it. All right, so what can you do? What do? You just dropped us a big bunch of scary stuff, and I'm depressed. And I want Prozac because it helps with COVID. What can I do? If you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated. please. If you're eligible for a booster, get your booster. Make this a priority this weekend, if you are eligible and you haven't gotten it, to get a booster into your arm this weekend. I can't stress it enough. Do it. Find a way to make it happen. Drive to Everett. When I got my vax, you couldn't find it anywhere down here. I went all the way up to Smokies Point. It was practically walk in. I made an appointment. There's like nobody there. And that's how I got mine. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm just going to go red area. Find a vax. Get your booster. Wear a KN95 or N95 mask. Double mask. Wear an exam or a cloth mask over that KN or N95 mask. The reason you want to do that is not because now I have to breathe through two masks. The N90, your KN95 and N95 mask, if they get they get the droplets, and they get the droplets, even ones you can't see, eventually they don't work no more, which is why KN95 and N95 masks are supposed to be disposable. Prediction, they're going to get really hard to find fast. I would get stock up in your KN95s because it isn't just going to be, it's going to be the world, right? You're not just competing against your neighbor at the Home Depot. You're going to be competing against the world in the next couple of weeks. So order your masks. You got into the club early with the information. Where do I go to order the mask? Don't worry, I got you. I'm getting there. You want to go to projectn95.org. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Don't worry. Boom. I just dropped the link in the chat. That's where you want to go. We have no affiliation. We have no connections. They are not a sponsor. They are not pay us to promote them in any way. They were promoted by King County Health as an excellent site that you can go to buy Made in America KN95 and N95 masks and at a price without markup. The organization is also committed to making sure everything they're selling is not counterfeit. Don't buy them from Amazon. Just because Amazon don't care. Flat out, they don't care. I will never buy medical supplies off. I won't buy even a freaking Band-Aid off of Amazon again. You hear me, Amazon? You hear me? Not even a box of Band-Aids from you again. We'll save that story for another time. Counterfeit medical supplies. Buy them there. The reason you want, again, is for the droplets. So you can get more life out of the KN, because this is what the doctors and nurses were doing when they were in short supply, right? You get more life by wearing it over. I'm using up. No. You go into the stores, right? They got the exam mask. They got the paper exam masks that are right there. So just grab the store's paper's exam mask, right? And use that. Damn, I wanted to have a mask to show people, remind people how to do masks. Masks that do this behind the ear, I forgot to bring a mask in the ear. They don't work as well, particularly with KN or N95 masks, than masks that you strap here, because they don't have that. You need the tight seal. It shouldn't be so tight that it's bruising your face, but you need the tight seal, because otherwise it's not doing much. Remember, too, the mask isn't about protecting yourself. That's not what the mask does. The mask is about protecting others. And if everybody wore a mask, and I get it, the people who are supposed to wear the mask the most aren't the ones that are wearing it. But it does provide a degree of protection for you in the other direction. But yeah, if you're wearing a cloth overlay, like you got the cool, first of all, don't just wear a cloth. They've already said, stop wearing the cloth, because we only told you to wear the cloth because there wasn't enough masks to begin with. And we're sorry we kind of lied to you about the cloth masks, but we didn't want to do a run of masks. And then all of a sudden the doctors and nurses didn't have any masks. And that's why we kind of lied to you about wearing the masks, about wearing cloth masks. At least they came out and said it. They just should have said it from the beginning. Of course, they get human nature. People will, screw you, I'm buying all these masks. I'm going to sell them back to the hospital for a profit, which is what some a-holes did. You're wearing a cloth mask, you need to wash it every day. So get 7. And you do that if you're doing a cloth. Again, if you're going to do the other approach, oh, here's the store. Here's their mask right here by the door. Do that. Wash your hands. You should be washing your hands anyway. If you come to a door and it's a latch doorknob, the kind you go this way, not the kind you go that way, the kind you go that way. Go use your elbow if you can. Do that. Or you could do this. Make a glove out of your sleeve. Well, it didn't work, but you get the idea. Make a glove out of your sleeve. When you go to the grocery store, they got the spray bottle to wipe down the hand. You should be doing it anyway, actually, right? Haven't you enjoyed not having like the cold or flu for 2 years? That's because we're doing this other stuff. Do not go into crowded indoor spaces. I'm not going to restaurants anymore. Norway. That's it. Norway, it's Norway. I'll eat outside. I trust outside. But inside's a hard pass. And that's me. You're going to make your own decisions. You're living in fear. No, I'm not living in fear. I don't want to contribute to the collapse of our hospital system if I end up in the hospital, because I could have avoided that. And I would prefer people that say need to have cancer removed out of their body, or get their hip replaced, or have their colostomy bag removed. Yeah, I would really prefer to have those people be able to get the procedures that they need, instead of taking care of my sorry ass for something I can prevent. That's why I wear a seatbelt. That's why when I jog and it's dark at night, I wear a lighted vest that flashes on both sides with reflectors. You're just scared of getting hit by a car. It doesn't sound like a fun experience to me. I'm going to pass on the hit by a car. And that's why. I'm not afraid. I'm afraid of the hospital system collapsing and what that's going to do to a bunch of other people. And if I do these things, then I can help maybe prevent. And yes, I did say maybe prevent the unthinkable from happening. I want to remind everybody, during our Delta surge, we were that close. Washington State Crisis of Standards of Care, we were that close. Oregon went right to the line. And there was about a 2-week period where we were about to where Oregon was. And there were hospitals out in Eastern Washington that were like, we're going to have to go to crisis standards of care. And that's when the state of Washington, no. If it goes down, we're all going down. We're going to figure this out. And we're going to play Tetris with the patients. And that's the only thing that prevented it. If you were here earlier, if we see the numbers like we saw, if we even see 25% of the numbers for case growth and how fast it's growing that South Africa is seeing, we're in trouble. We're in huge trouble. Because we have very limited capacity as it is. We are in huge trouble. I'm going back to trending. It's April of 2020. I'm going to the grocery store once a week. I think you should go to the grocery store once a week. I think you should plan your trips. It's time to limit your exposure, vaxxed or not. Norway. I'm going to keep going back to Norway. They're inside without masks, happy, hugging. I write, it's Christmas party, cheers. I get, right? Into each other, right? Get it. That's not necessarily going on in a grocery store. I'm telling you what my strategy is. I'm going to go to the grocery store once a week. Now, if it comes down to like, oh my God, I got no toilet paper, and it's Thursday and I don't go to the grocery store, I'll go to the grocery store, or I'll have Amazon bring it to my door. Amazon. We're lucky here in Seattle that we have that, to be candid, because a lot of places don't. So we're very lucky to have that. Also remember, it's not DoorDash. I can't think of the company that picks up the groceries for you. I've totally blanked on their name. They're beyond evil. If you need to use them because you're immunocompromised, because you're disabled, right? Or, You're a new parent. You got a 6-month-old. You're stuck in the house. You can't, and you got to use them. That's fine. But if you're just using them because like it's convenient, they're an evil company. Instacart. Look at that. The comments are blowing up. Instacart is friggin' evil. They make Grubhub look like a very, very rational, sane company. Don't use them. Socially distance. And here's the one that's going to hurt. If you got travel plans, I'd pull the plug. I'd pull the plug on them. If you were planning to travel to see family for Christmas, and you can do it, I would pull the plug. You said on TikTok that travel bans don't work, and now you're telling me not to travel? Hypocrite! Oh, for fuck's sake, people. I had people saying this in the comments to me there. The reason I'm telling you not to travel is not because travel bans don't work. It's because if you travel, you are going to dramatically increase your risk of exposing yourself to COVID. When you go to the airport and you wait in the line, and then you go through security, you wait in the line, and you board the plane, you wait in the line, then you're stuck in a tube of aluminum breathing in the air of 250 other people of a COVID variant that has an R naught of 15, and then you go to the other part of the airport, and then you go ahead and you get in an Uber or a cab or a bus, or you go pick up your rental car and you're dealing with more people. Then you go to a hotel and you're dealing with the people at the hotel. See, you just introduced yourself to a million different infection vectors, including crowded indoor spaces. That's why I'm saying, well, then how can you say that they don't work if we close the border? Because it's already here. It was here as early as November 19th. We do know that. We know that money to the bank. We know it was here on November 19th. We know that from the breakthrough community spread case out of New York City, where the person went to the anime convention at the Javits Center, where there were 53,000 other people. That was between the 19th and the 21st. They came back positive. They were 22nd, is what I understand. Like the next day when they got back, they're not feeling well. We know the incubation is really fast with Omicron, but it's not like 12 hours fast because they were vaxxed. Mild symptoms are going to recover. Actually, I think that person's like recovered. Can't quite. It's like it's gotten to the point now. But like yesterday, it was like, oh yeah, it's this one and that. Now there's so many, I can't even keep it in my head anymore. So we know it was here, at least as early as November 19. When did the travel ban go into? Well, we didn't even know what Omicron was, right? It was like, hey, there's this thing, Omicron. Like I saw it like on the 24th. I'm like, oh great, another variant, whatever, right? Then it was the 26th. And for all intent and purposes, it was the 27th here because we found out very late at night on Thanksgiving night, the 26th here, like 10 o'clock at night. So all intent and purposes, we didn't know the 27th, which was 8 days after we already knew it was in the United States. So putting a travel ban into effect on the 28th did jack shit for us. And that's why continuing the travel ban on Southern Africa, but allowing Norwegians, 60 cases, Norway, 60 cases. But we're going to let Norwegians in. Go ahead, you explain. Take all the time you want to explain that logic to me. Just like you could explain the logic to me that Aaron Rodgers was fined $14,650 for lying that he was vaccinated, and Antonio Brown has a 3-week suspension without pay for lying that he was vaccinated. This wouldn't have anything possibly to do with the fact that Aaron Rodgers is white and Antonio Brown is black. It couldn't possibly have anything to do with that. Be far from it from me to suggest that the racism within the NFL even applies to COVID protocols. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a little ranty. Cancel your travel plans. Sorry. German health minister said on November 22nd, we didn't know about Omicron. He might have known about, well, no, he wouldn't, because the WHO wasn't alert until the 24th. So unless he got like a sit rep report out, because it was sequenced on the 11th. So he might have known there was something cooking, like, here, back page, oh, they got a new variant in Africa. Whatever, we see bunches of it all the time. So, man, but this wasn't on radar. Germans will be vaccinated, cured, or dead by the end of this winter. Americans are going to be vaccinated, cured, or dead by the end of this winter. Pick your lane. Oh, those friggin' idiots down there. I want to know who that... it's like this skinny, blondish woman. She looks like she's in her 40s. She has kind of a shortish haircut. She like the ringleader. I want to know... I would love to know her name so I could do a 3-minute long video warning. We're getting ready to go down another deep rabbit hole. Well, I would love to do one of those on her. If anybody could find out what her name is, it's probably pretty easy. Would love to go in the rabbit hole. Okay, so what's the question from Pam? Just because it was first name. No, right, right, and I think I already said that earlier, but I'll say it again. I know I said it earlier. I know I said just because it was found there because they have much better monitoring than the United States or a lot of other places. Down there at Westlake, where the anti-vaxxers protest, there's an organizer. I see her at every one of these protests, and I have seen her in a leadership role, particularly now that Palmer Davis has said, I give up and I'm moving to Idaho. Although I don't know if that's really happened or not. I might even be able to find a picture of her somewhere. I would love to know her name. And unleash the hounds of the research team to learn all of her secrets. All right, any other questions? Any other questions? This is the time you can ask your questions. Hey, door order the can. The other thing also on that project, that link that I put up there, wow, there's like so many links. You guys are chatty. Projectn95.org. They have child size KN95 masks, and they are the ear loops. I know the kids kind of prefer the ear loops over there. And, you know, I know they said the ear loops don't work as well. Look, if you're talking a little kid, if you can get them to wear a mask, you're winning. You're winning. Especially if you can wear them to get them to wear a KN95 or N95 right. Ultra winning. Who are you calling hounds? Unleash the hounds, I tell you. Any other questions? How likely is transmission in your eyeballs? I have no idea. You know, I had a bunch of people asking me, like, early this week. It's like, so what do you think that... I know I had a bunch. I had several people. So what do you think? You know, they finally decided that COVID is airborne. And I'm like, what? 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 I thought they put that to bed. I thought that was solved last year about this time. What do you mean? They just decided it's airborne? It took this long? No kidding, it's airborne. I don't know about eyes. Like, and with the whole Omicron, right? I was like, I don't know. Not my lane. I can't answer the question. That'd be a great question for a clinician, a doctor, or a viral, or virologist. Not my lane. I'm going to have to punt on that question. Joy, are you sure? Really? We got Palmer Davis and Victoria Palmer? Let's do a little. Not coming up. I don't know if it's Victoria Palmer. It's not coming up on anything. But maybe she's better at hiding her tracks. Or maybe she's just been so off the rails that The other possibility is maybe so off the rails that on a lot of the more mainstream, right, would have to do a deeper dive. But seriously, like nothing is coming up for Victoria Palmer. So I call shenanigans, but I appreciate the suggestion. Yeah, Jessica. Skinny blonde white lady, yes. Okay, wow. Interesting. All right, we're going to have to do some digging. Carl, I don't know. I'm seeing your question. Right, because this goes back to... I got the slideshow's done, but I'm going to go back to the slide. This is the problem. You're immune from Delta. You're probably not immune from Omicron, meaning vaccine immunity. You had Alpha. It doesn't mean it's not going to help you with Omicron. It's not going to help you much. You get Omicron, but you haven't had any of the first variants, you're still possible to get those. And just because those variants aren't dominant doesn't mean that they disappear unless Omicron completely extinguishes. But that would be good news. If Omicron were to completely extinguish Delta and the other variants, that would be good news. But as long as Delta is circulating, and then you're going to have people get Omicron, but they never got Delta, and they still not going to get vaccinated, and then they're going to get Delta. And you get it the other way around. So I don't know. I don't know when this goes away. I think we have to get into a place of just being like, I think we just have to be in a place where we're accepting that. We're going to live with this. Laughter and Light, that's her screen name, and she's an epidemiologist. If you're on TikTok, please follow her. I love the way that she presents. She's got the brain the size of a small planet, but she's able to explain every now and then she'll explain some stuff, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm keeping up. Every now and then, I think because sometimes I'm going to get a little technical here, and she'll go into the like the whole genetic sequencing and stuff. But I've learned a ton from her, and I validated some things, bounced some stuff off of her. And it was like, I think like one article, I was like, hey, can you look at this? Am I getting this right? She's like, this is great. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. But follow her, Laughter in Light. But, there's something, just get endemic. When she's like, endemic is not good, because endemic then just means like, 50, 100,000 people are dying in the United States every year. And we're just going, well, it's okay. The other thing I will say, don't expect stimulus checks. Don't expect money to the states for additional response. And in part of it, money going to states for additional response actually would be bullshit, because part of the package that came in March was billions upon billions of dollars that could be tapped, I believe, all the way into 2025 for COVID response. There is a shit. Remember, part of the things they were screaming about the Republicans is like, not all that money is getting spent right away. It's for the future. That's crazy, because they'll just, well, it's looking kind of smart now. And the other thing is that the Republicans flat out aren't going to let anything go by that'll give Joe Biden anything. I mean, to keep us from bankrupting the country in the metaphorical sense, defaulting on our debt, Joe Biden had to promise he would not try to pass any more vaccine mandates anymore, ever, anywhere. I had a slide. Where did it go? Wait a minute. I had a slide. 1 second. Where did this slide go? I just realized something, like a slide that I had, and it's not here. How does a whole slide disappear? All right, I'm going to talk about it. There's another thing here. Let me pull this. I'm going to pull a different slide up, though, which is this one on this natural immunity escape. Let me pull this up. Disease-acquired immunity escape. Let me pull that slide back up, because this one's important too. Put myself over here. Har, 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 har. This is bad news for states like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, and Oregon, and Missouri. It's another state. This is bad news. And yeah, that's probably it. Arkansas is on the line. They're on the line. But those states, the reason this is bad news for those states is they had their Delta surge, their fifth wave, very early, right? They had it starting in July. They saw their peaks August, September. Like in the case of Missouri, they saw their peaks late August. Oregon's right on the line too. And then if you have states, you look at like Florida, right, it was really starting to go down by the end of September, October, November, December, 90 days. A bunch of people in these states who got COVID, and they're like, I'm immune forever because they didn't pay attention in science class. And they get their advice from Joe Rogan and Dr. Malone and people like that. And this is really bad news for these states. The other thing is, which is unfortunate, the information was factual when it was released. But what's very unfortunate is there were studies, I was happy to see these studies, that were starting to point out that if you had got monoclonal antibodies, it was kind of like getting a short-term vax. That it could protect you, half-life was faster than the vaccine, but it could protect you up to 8 months. In theory, on paper, for the average person, if you get vaxxed, you go to zero at about 16 months. Your B and T cells are like, what? I don't know. We haven't seen them in a while. We give up. And that half-life was about, again, it was about 8 months. And I was like, well, that's cool, because then at least it gives them some buffer. It gives them some protection. They've probably lost that. So you have a bunch of people, particularly in Florida, who got monoclonal antibodies, didn't get vaccinated, now believe they have natural immunity enhanced by the monoclonal antibodies, and they got shit. And they're living in a state that, oh, you don't live here in the state, even though you're a resident here 5 months out of the year? Oh, we're not counting your case. Your case doesn't count. And they ain't genetically sequencing. And right, because the genetic sequencing is up to each state. And I say they're not, but they're not doing a hell of a job about it. So by the time, I think what will happen in Florida, when they're like, oh, Omicron is here, it'll either be like Ron DeSantis gets it, someone important gets it, or it's going to be, well, the hospitals are filling up again. Maybe we have to do some genetic sequencing. I would not be surprised if like Florida is one of the last states to go, we have Omicron. Total. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And I think that they really have a chance to be hit hard. And I'm going to tell you something. That DeSantis, this whole, we got the lowest in the country. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be holding that one up with joy and glee. Oh, God. Yeah, for me, natural immunity is like you just haven't had anything. You're just relying on your immune system. Disease-acquired immunity means you've had COVID before, specific to COVID. I would like to cancel my my subscription to Dystopian Today. How do we do this? Jennifer, I do think that there's some degree of that too. There is one thing I've been struggling, and I'm going to close on this, on how to word this, because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to kick off I guess I'm going to present it as connect the dots. Let me pull up a different slide to have this connected on. We're going to close on this. I'm hungry. So let me play Connect the Dots. I can put myself here. This nice little area where it was all solved and happy. If we see these kinds of numbers in the United States and Washington State, this kind of growth, this number of people impacted, even if it's mild. It's mild. It's just a cold. And I think earlier tonight we presented a pretty compelling case that mild is relative to Delta, not relative to a cold. And I'm so frustrated that Dr. Kutsi used that comparison. You just have no idea, and that's why I just bag on her. You're going to have a lot of people. I'm trying to think how to word this. We already have an employee shortage, as it is, in the service industries, retail, restaurants, warehouses, trucking. Okay. If there are things that you think you might need that might be a little hard to find at times, I think I've hinted enough. Thank you, Jessica. You should plan ahead. And plan ahead does not mean go to Costco tomorrow and buy 300 rolls of frickin' toilet paper. And I mean that seriously. Like, really seriously. I know what I'm going to go look for my weekly grocery trip. I know what I'm looking, because there's something actually has been a little hard to find. But I'm not going to say what it is, because I don't want to be competing with other people for it. I will after I find my stash. You might have a lot of people who are out of work, and that might impact some things. So you should plan accordingly. But yes, I'm very serious. There is something that we're actually like, why is this so hard to find? And we've read online, and other people are, oh God, yeah, same thing. It's like it's all over the country. I'm not going to say what it is, because like the light bulb's going to go off, and by the time I get to the store, it'll be all gone. And I shouldn't have brought it up. Now I'm in trouble. A water distiller at last surge. Oh, I'll let people know. Shelly, I don't have that problem. Ow. Eek. Eek. All right. Any other questions? I don't know. Shelly comes in with the creepy comment. Pickled herring. They have that at the Russian market. There was plenty of pickled herring. Yes, it does. I use CPAP. If you haven't noticed, I have no neck. If you notice, I don't have no neck. Even when I was like 30 pounds lighter, I still had no neck. And so, yeah, I use CPAP. However, I don't need the humidifier. I'm actually really fortunate with that. We're not going to do late night malcontent, by the way, because we've been doing this 2 hours, and I'm ravenous. Anything else? Have I missed any mods, admins? Did I miss any questions? Spam those hearts one more time for those mods and admins, please. Go ahead and give them their love. Yes, Amy, Laughter Light on TikTok. She is amazing. I would love to have her. I really want to get back to interviewing and stuff. The real job is I'm so overwhelmed busy. And half the time I feel like I'm spinning my wheels on stuff, to be candid. That's a whole separate conversation or another time. And that's somebody I was like, boy, if I could get her on the show, I would love to get her on, do like a Q&A. She's a big fan of ours. Just like, I mean, seriously, I'm like, oh my God. Crazy Mother Runner follows. We're mutuals. We're friends on these. He's got 1 million followers. John Edwards. Yes, the crossing over John Edwards follows. We're friends. Followed him back. I'm like, oh my God, John Edwards. I'm going to follow him back. Oh boy. Courtney, I love you. Oh my God. Courtney comes in. Oh God, she's on Apple Podcasts. Wow. Now I got a name. And oh yeah, that's her. People are like, who are we talking about? We'll go ahead and share the screen. I'm like messing up here. Like seriously, I just totally, no. There we go. What the hell? There we go. Cover up her sign. That's her right there. We are being governed by spikes and surges. And COVID-19 case counts, schools and businesses are closed or crippled. We can see another full state lockdown. The truth is the PCR test has a high rate of false positives. Real cases of COVID-19 are of mild or asymptomatic. A rise in cases not correspond to a rise in death. COVID-19 can be managed by the current healthcare system. Does not need further government intervention. You can't convince me that she works in the current healthcare system, because everybody in the current healthcare system will tell you we can't take one more fucking case, let alone 10,000 more or 30,000 more. Oh God, the science and news links. I'm keeping it covered on purpose because I don't want to I want to see what it is. Let's see, we got the new podcast interview. No excess death rate in Washington State through June 2020. No pandemic. Doesn't have anything to do with the fact that people weren't driving in cars, going to work, falling off roofs, buildings, shooting each other. Didn't have anything to do with any of that. Didn't have anything to do that people couldn't get in the hospitals to get their cancer treatments, blah, 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 blah. So it was just being deferred. So you had some people that say may have gotten very dangerous surgeries to remove the cancers, but it was deferred because it was still considered an elective procedure. And they might have died during that, but instead they were just waiting, and then they died later because they couldn't get the surgery in the first place. This is interesting. All the featured ranks are just from 2020. Let's see. My first peaceful protest in questioning authority. Many problems with Inslee's. So it looks like all this stuff is old news. Who we can contact. Get in touch with us. Of course they're on Telegram, because they probably have been kicked off of every other platform. You want to see something funny? 104 subscribers. There is no anti-vax movement. There are just grifters, politicians making a lot of money, and foreign operatives spreading disinformation. There is no anti-vax movement. All 104 followers. All right, I'm not going to dig into mods, admins, research. Anybody wants to start digging in, Victoria Palmer. I would love to be able to do a long video warning. We're going down another deep rabbit hole. I've thought about that. I actually have an idea in my head on something. I would not. I would never like do reverse disinformation, but like it has crossed my mind. Right? It's like, what could you tell them? They're like, oh my god! It was like when all this stuff was going on. It's like, okay, so you got the vax, and what you need to do is you need to get in a bathtub with Epsom salts. Okay, that's cool. Baking soda. Okay, that's cool, and a shit ton of borax. That sounds no. Especially on the sensitive bits. That no, what? And then the baking soda gets the radiation out of your body. You know, you need to let the atomic vets and the VA know that you have found the cure for radiation sickness and it was just baking soda. Don't let the Japanese know that they had that cure all along. They're going to be very upset. Oh, there's some dude that yeeted himself by giving. I'm not making this up. Not making this up. Don't do this. He gave himself a bleach enema. I'm not making this up. He had COVID. He's in a hospital. This was in Germany. He was in COVID. He in a hospital. He got convinced. He signed himself AMA. He went home. He gave himself a bleach enema and died horribly about 2 days later. Not making it up. Oh, Dora, that's why I clicked on the Telegram. They have 104 followers on Telegram. That's all you need to know about how big their movement is. Right? I mean, you know, we're LGBTQI bi, and I know I haven't done a whole lot of that stuff lately because just freaking COVID and I'm tired of it. You know, we're not even an order of magnitude, you know, at 100 because that'd be 1,000. We're like in an order of magnitude. Just the kiwi. I love it. Oh my God. It's about the virus they're going to release next. Have you been to the website? What website? I can't tell you. I've already said too much. You're not chosen. Oh my God, I may use that. Yeah, Joe, I've seen the videos. And I've seen the videos of people like literally pointing and laughing at them and stuff. And then they're like, they were cheering for... No. They were pointing and laughing and then like mock clapping you is what I've seen the videos. Just like, oh my God. Did you see French toast question? What was French toast question? There was a French toast question? I didn't see it. What's the French toast question? Wait a minute, what? Snow? Oh no, this isn't good because my wife is going to freak out and I'm going to have a very busy day tomorrow. There's snow? Snow in the forum? 1 minute. I don't know. Y'all are just trying to keep me on the air. I really am tired and need to eat. No. How's that for an answer? Close. Like tomorrow's going to be miserable. That's for sure. We could see some wet flakes. I'm not getting the feels for accumulating snow. We could see. Also, we've been hella warm, right? We've been ridiculously warm and wet in November. The ground's super saturated. The ground is super warm. We could get some wet flakes. I don't see a lot sticking. So there you go. Because I'm looking at the weather models. Y'all are killing me. Yeah, I'm like a hard no on the snow. Like it's just no. Like I've seen enough. Just wow, he went to that website. Yeah, because I just shortcut. He got there quick. What I'm looking at here is we don't see temperatures supportive of snow. We don't see temperatures that support snow until 4 p.m. tomorrow. And Sunday's just a flat out hard no. I mean, like I see there's not enough moisture. You might get some stray flakes. We don't get temperatures that are supportive of even like pull down snow. Like if it's coming down hard enough, we don't get that until about 4 in the afternoon, and the main rain bands are gone by the time that comes through. Yeah, I'm seeing this here on Monday for rain snow mix, and I'm a hard no on that too. Right now. Oh, it's interesting. Maybe for like an hour, some wet flakes. While we're asleep, you're going to wake up. You're not even going to see it. That's what I think. I see the comments are going like crazy. I'm not seeing it. I'm looking at the model. I'm not seeing it. Certainly not tomorrow. Sunday night. And again, I'm looking at Kirkland, Bellevue, Woodinville. I'm not talking Everett, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at a really small little pocket there. Yeah, again, I'm just looking at a very, very small little pocket. Yeah, over on the east side of the crest, Jennifer, on the east side of the crest, it was over 30 degrees above normal. Second time in 5 months. Massive historical, it's crazy to say, right? We had a massive historical heat wave at the end of November. No one even talked about it because there's so much other crap going on. Plus it was Thanksgiving. I guess I'm just going to do one more thing and then we're going to sign it off. And I know the mods are like, well, he just sign off. No, I'm looking to see if there's any more breaking news specific to Omicron. Omicron beam. If somebody here wants to do me a favor, I looked for a ridiculous amount of time for this. The name of the show is Getter Robo, Getter, and in the United States it was known as Force 5 Star Vengers. And so I don't know if Voltron was a knockoff of Force 5 or Force 5 is a knockoff of Voltron. I think Voltron is a knockoff of Getter Robo. The robot, when they do the whole robot, like the weapon, right? Because you make you watch the whole half hour and you're just like 10 minutes in, you're like, just use the Omicron beam. Just right then the show over. Just Omicron beam to sorry ass because we got to use the Omicron beam. And they say, Omicron beam. And I looked for an hour because I want to memify this, right? I want a button, Omicron beam. So I put it in the comments. Force 5 Star Avengers. If anybody can find a clip, it could be super low resolution. Okay? It's all about the audio. From Force 5 Star Avengers going Omicron beam. You'll make my day. There you go. Tips. I couldn't find it. I couldn't. But y'all, like, I know if I crowdsource this, somebody's going to be like bing, bang, boom. Yeah, certainly Kirkland, Bellevue, blah, blah, blah. We don't need no French toast. I wasn't here in 90. No, I was other side of the country. All right, I was looking up COVID headlines, and then I got all distractified with the Omicron beam. Had an ADHD moment. I just wanted to see if there's anything like, oh boy. Because we're getting into this phase now where it's just like news is just going to be like boom, 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 boom. All right, there's a thing on the sun. The sun's bullshit. So just no. Omicron variant news, having asthma, hay fever, or eczema reduces risk of COVID. No, it's from the fucking sun. Jesus Christ. They published on Thursday in the journal Thorax. Well, at least it's not the journal Anthrax. Like, what the fuck is the journal Thorax? Charlotte, I want to see where this is coming from here. I'm not even seeing where this study came from. Like, I'm looking at their studies that have been released. The Sun headline bullshit. If people like telling you, "Oh, I got hay fever," it's just bullshit. Australia's locking some stuff up. LA is opening up a mass testing site. There's nothing there. I'm laughing because all the anti-vaxxers are like, look at India and ivermectin. Yeah, apparently some province in India, this is announced 5 minutes ago, is banning any unvaccinated residents from going into like restaurants or public areas. It's in Mexico. I don't know if you heard. I saw hours ago it was in Mexico, but I'm seeing this like as of 5 minutes ago. 5 people who arrived from South Africa and India who were COVID positive have disappeared. That's a headline out of India. It makes sense. I'm seeing a lot of Indian headlines right now because it's, the sun shining there. Just checking to see if there's anything else. That's probably, there's nothing new as far as I know was announced. Yeah, I'm really not seeing anything from a reputable news source. It's really, I'm like looking at these news sources that Google has pushed up, and I'm just like, who the hell are these news sites? In other news, Hawaii has a blizzard warning. Does everybody know that? Did y'all hear that? Hawaii has a blizzard warning. They're going to have a foot of snow and winds up to 100 miles an hour. In other news, it has yet to snow in Denver, and they have had their driest June through November in history. And Phoenix has had more than 200% more precipitation in that same time period than Denver has. And Seattle has had 2 30-plus degree unprecedented multi-day heat waves in the same year. But climate change is okay. I would like to cancel my subscription to Dystopia today. Thank you, Kayla. I do get my Jew on, but we not doing too much big for Hanukkah. Although I think I need donuts tomorrow. Actually, I had donut. I take that back. I did Hanukkah by proxy today. I just realized that. All right, that's it. We're done. Get vaxxed. If you're not boosted, get your flippin' booster. Make it a priority. Double mask. KN9595. Practice good protocol when you're taking those masks on and off. Straps from behind or from the ears behind. Don't do that. Don't put your fingers on the other side of the mask, because you just defeated the whole purpose. Wash your hands. Wipe the handle down on you should be doing that anyway. I mean, it's just like, that's hygiene. On the subject of Hanukkah, it is in Leviticus, you're supposed to wash your hands 5 times a day. I'm just saying. Because Leviticus is really just a health code for the most part. Socially distance. Plan your outings. Support our small business, but curbside, takeout, delivery if they offer delivery themselves. Don't do, again, if you're disabled, it's not an option. I'm not being ableist. If that's your only option, then you work with the option you've got. If you're doing it for convenience, get your happy ass in your car. If you live in the city, go walk 2 blocks and pick it up. Because Grubhub, they're evil. They're evil to the delivery drivers. They are even more evil to the restaurants. That's all. And if you got travel plans, it's time to cancel them. And that's it. We're all in this together. We've been doing this for 2 years. We got a 24-day break in July. Remember, 24 days, you could take the masks off. We all kind of felt it. Yay, it's back to normal. I remember like when I went to a restaurant, it's like, no mask. And I'm in a restaurant. And I'm not worried about like getting sick and collapsing the hospital system because my happy ass is in the hospital. I'm taken up in a bed that really should go to someone else for something that's preventable. And then 24 days later, it was all taken away from us. Thank you, Ron DeSantis, and the shit show that was Florida that then spread across the rest of the country. Good night, everybody. Sleep well. Tell those close to your heart you love them. You don't know when the next day is going to be. Malcontent out.
You're the white devil, bitch! Bam!
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa. Fuck you.
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter.